All right, now joining me to discuss the Knicks opening night win over the Cleveland Cavaliers from Knicks Film School. Jonathan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. A little bit of a scratchy voice. I promise that was not all from screaming at my television last night, seeing, Knicks Twitter's wet dream come true right there on the screen in front of me. But yeah, I'm doing good. It was a good night, an opening night win. What could you ask for?
I mean, you said it like Knicks fans seem just overjoyed this morning. Like you said, their wet dream come true. Why is that? What did we see in that opening night win that has made Knicks fans so happy?
I mean, it's impossible for me to answer that question without referring to the previous head coach, Tom Thibodeau. And it's funny, right now in Knicks land, there's like a very big sentiment of like, look, could we please just move on? The Thibodeau era is over. Do we have to continue talking about this? And yet, to properly answer that question, the only way to explain why what we saw last night was so impactful to so many people was to compare it to what we had been seeing previously. So for one, 11 guys playing in the game, 6 guys getting off the bench. And we're not talking token minutes here. We're talking Trey Jemison III, who, kudos to any of your listeners who are fully familiar with his career and resume in the NBA. Like, he's on a two-way here with the Knicks. He got 8 minutes and they were good, impactful minutes. So there's just the numbers game. And then there's how they played, which I'm sure we're going to get into more. But it was, dare I say, unrecognizable from how we've seen this team look for really like the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did look unrecognizable. Just the amount of motion and movement on offense. And I mean, the on-ball picks by Brunson, he had 5 on-ball picks. And obviously, he's not setting like hard screens, but being able to like slip out of those. He had 5 on-ball picks against the Cavs. He averaged one per game last season. And so it just feels like there's more fluidity to the offense, more pace. I was a little bit concerned with the overall pace in preseason. Maybe there's a bit of an overreaction compared to how quickly they were getting into their actions, but it looked like things were clicking very, very well against Cleveland with Brunson into his new role. I'm curious what you thought about that balance between him on ball and off ball.
I mean, I thought so clearly you saw last night, it was a work in progress. There was a stretch in the third quarter. Donovan Mitchell was going off. And as should surprise no one, Brunson is like, okay, it's my time to answer back. And there was kind of like a handful of possessions there where it was more of what we, became accustomed to seeing the last few years. And, he didn't have his shot last night, but that's neither here nor there. Brunson kind of usually starts a little bit slowly. But there were also a lot of moments where you saw him really embracing what Mike Brown wants him to do. I said it as we were watching. The very first 2 possessions of the game, you saw Jalen Brunson space to the corner. And one of them resulted in a wide open catch and shoot 3 for him. Another one resulted in a hard closeout that he got Cat a great look from 3 that he was fouled on and got to the line. So I think there was a mix of both. I think it's going to be a process. And then I think the real question, and you pointed it out already, is the pace thing. Can they continue to play fast? My guy, Fred Katz of The Athletic, we were talking the other day about how, the pace numbers were low in the preseason, but they're getting into their first action very quickly. And I thought you saw that again last night, and it was in part because it was not just Jalen Brunson bringing the ball up. I mean, we saw Mikal Bridges, who the Knicks paid, I don't know, if you remember this, they paid a decent price to get this gentleman on their basketball team. He started to look like the guy that you pay that sort of a freight to acquire because he's doing all these different things, initiating actions, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there with Bridges. He just felt like more important, more of a connective piece. He wasn't just hitting that beautiful fadeaway mid-range. He was doing more with the ball in his hands. And I think that's where look, the Knicks were good last season. I don't want it to be like, oh, Tibbs sucks. But at the same time, I just felt like there's more, meat on the bone with the players on the team. And when you go to Brunson over and over and over again, and we saw it when Brunson was out last year, Bridges did more, OG did more, Cat did more. All these guys are capable of doing more. And with Brunson, it's very funny to see that last season, he averaged 86 touches per game. This opening night game, he had exactly 86 touches, but the big difference is everywhere else. Last season, he averaged 6 seconds per touch, 6 dribbles per touch. and he had 2.4 shots taken per game, taking no dribbles. Opening night, 86 touches, 4.7 seconds per touch, so not holding the ball as long, 4.3 dribbles per touch, so not dribbling as often. And then he had 8 shots with no dribbles, and he made only one of them, but who cares? Like, he's going to hit those shots. The usage just felt more balanced. Like, you're still going to get a ton of production and opportunities for Brunson to score. It's just the process of getting there is just going to have so much diversity to it within this Knicks offense, which I think will ultimately, translate to more sustained success, different ways of scoring, and hopefully better playoff success as well.
So the dribbles per touch and the seconds per touch you just referenced, that led the league the last 2 seasons, I'm pretty sure. And if I'm remembering correctly, I haven't looked at the stat in a while. The gap between him and whoever was in second last year widened, over the previous year. Look, I was a Tibbs guy. I kind of became, known primarily as a Tibbs guy over the last few years because I would be so vehement in not defending every decision he made, but just kind of appreciating, like, look, the Knicks were in a wasteland for the better part of 20 years. This guy came in and he brought stability, and there is a modicum of stability every night with a Thibodeau coach team that you're going to get. The trade-off of that stability is that you were constantly watching and feeling like, man, is there a ceiling here we're not reaching because we have a head coach that is so dead set on, I am not going to push anybody or anything like with terms of my system past a limit that I know what the result is going to be. And here's Mike Brown coming in and saying, no, I'm going to push guys past their limit. One name I don't know if you mentioned in terms of, when Brunson was out, someone who took on more was OG Anunoby. He looked like an all-NBA player for a month last year. Granted, that was against a cupcake schedule. But you fast forward to last night, he has one of his 5 to 10 best games as a Knick. He was a monster on the boards. He handled the ball also. Like, he brought the ball up. He initiated some actions. Did he have 4 turnovers, one of which was really more like it was worse than the previous one? Yeah. You're going to get that stuff when you empower other players besides Jalen Brunson to do more. And that comes with the territory. And it kind of makes me think of the Warriors, where obviously Mike Brown was an assistant or associate head coach, whatever his title was, for several years under Steve Kerr. Like, you have to deal with that stuff. And I think if you're talking about a Knicks team that has a lot of talent and is the goal is to win a championship, you have to start trying to reach for that higher ceiling. And I think what you saw last night was the beginnings of that pursuit in action.
I think you absolutely nailed that. And the other thing Mike Brown did, and I'm very happy we saw Ariel Hekporty start the game, because that's one of the things that I didn't like the Tibbs. We didn't see enough of it last year was the 2 bigs. We didn't see it until the postseason when he's like, okay, I guess now I have to use Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns together. Because even after Mitch returned late in the year, we saw very, very little 2 big. But, Hekporty, Knicks, I know some Knicks fans really like him. Like, he's not going to talk about him as like a big, needle mover, but he's solid. And I just wish we saw some of that last year. So I was encouraged that in a game Mitchell Robinson was out, Mike Brown stuck with the plan of 2 bigs and he started him, because I think there's benefits to playing that way defensively, offensively too, but especially defensively. What did you see from the 2 big lineup on opening night against Cleveland, besides the fact they made Jared Allen look absolutely tiny and small, just overall?
What is it when Jared Allen sees? Is it just when he sees Knick uniforms, or is it when he sees Knick uniforms in MSG? I mean,
the lights were brighter than I expected.
I think he had 4 rebounds last night, and like the Knicks were missing arguably their best 2 pound for pound rebounders in Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart. Look, I like Hekporty. I think he has an interesting skill set. You would know more than me because you do more draft stuff, but would he have fallen to the 58th pick if there weren't some injury concerns there? Because I know he had been dealing with some stuff over a few years. Regardless of whether he would have or not, there are actually some things, and I love Mitch, to be very clear, and Mitch is arguably the best offensive rebounder in the sport, impeccable with pick and roll coverage, which is an area that Hekporty, we saw him struggle on a few possessions on last night. But with Hekporty in the game, you could actually use him in some ways on offense that I don't know, even in this Mike Brown era of pushing players to their limits, like Ariel Hukporti delivered a pass to a cutting Jalen Brunson that he had to kind of thread a needle because there was a Cavalier defender in pursuit. Brunson missed, a semi-contested layup. It was a good look, but that's not a pass that Mitchell Robinson throws, and Hukporti kind of has that little jump hook, little floater that Mobley got him on one time last night. But like, he could do some stuff. To the larger point about Mike Brown going to the double bigs, I think this is actually a point of contention in Knicks fandom right now. The notion, like, how much do you need to go 5 out with Cat to open up the offense? Because, like, if you have the right big next to him that brings their own level of gravity, and like, again, going back to Mitch, obviously he's not a floor spacer. He's taken 10 shots in his career outside of like 4 feet, but he has gravity, and if you use Hukporti in a certain way, as a hub on offense, maybe similar to as how you use Isaiah Hartenstein. He's not as good as Hartenstein, obviously, but in that way, can you access some of that 5 out stuff without actually going to 5 out? I think that's going to be worth monitoring throughout the year, because especially since like Josh Hart is going to come back, and last night they played I think 26 minutes without either Hukporti or Trey Jemison on the floor. That's not going to happen when Hart's back. It's just it can't. So they're going to have to figure out a way to continue to open up the offense again without a true 5 out look.
Now, Karl-Anthony Towns had a quote earlier this week before the season began where he was asked about his role and he couldn't really describe it. And I saw that quote and I was like, oh my God, this is terrifying. This is worrisome. And maybe I overreacted a little bit to that, but you kind of looked at jarred when I just mentioned it just now. How would you describe Cat's role, and what was behind him saying that? Is there actual confusion and Nickland behind what he's going to be doing in that offense?
Well, so let me take a step back. Mike Brown has talked about trying to use Cat as more of a hub, similar to how he used Sabonis in Sacramento, which I think is a good idea. And he's also talked
that's why
about
I thought it was obvious, Jonathan. I thought it was like, oh, clearly I'm going to be a hub. I'm going to dribble handoffs and I'm going to score out of these actions and I'm going to shoot. It feels like the roles should be self-explanatory, right?
It should, but we also saw, Towns in the preseason, he did not shoot it a lot. I think he played 3 preseason games, not the whole game, a couple of them, but took 5 threes the whole preseason. And
he's having Coach Cal flashbacks. Going back to college, he's where I'm not going to shoot anymore.
I wish Karl-Anthony Towns would take 8 threes a game, but that's never going to happen because he doesn't want to be that. But I say it time and time again. Karl-Anthony Towns wants to be Kevin Durant. And I think if you want to get at the heart of maybe where those comments came from, Brown has talked about the adjustment it's going to take for not just Towns, but all of his big men, because he requires so much of his bigs to do all these different things. And I wonder if those comments from Cat came from a place of is this offense going to be good for me? And I don't mean that's going to come off like I'm painting Cat to be selfish. I don't want to do that, but more like Towns is the guy who's made 4 All-NBA teams in his career. In his mind, justifiably, he's probably like, look, man, how I play and how I want to go about my business, that works. And we've heard how he's referred to himself in the past, greatest shooting big man of all time, the whole thing. So this is not a guy who I would guess went into this season being like, all right, how can I reinvent myself? That's not, I'd be surprised if that was his mentality. And it feels like Brown is asking a little bit of that. And then sure enough, in the first 3 quarters, at least last night, he wasn't really involved in the offense. He didn't get a lot of shots. And then he kind of found it in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson was off the court. He was in a 5 out look. I thought the best that we saw from Cat, interestingly enough, was a lineup with him, OG at the 4, and then Tyler Kolek, shout out to Tyler Kolek and the Kolek Hive. I don't think the Kolek Hive has gone to sleep yet. I think they're still up on an all-night bender. And Deuce McBride and Jordan Clarkson, and that kind of featured.
I'm in the Deuce McBride camp. I love Deuce. I always love Deuce.
Deuce is awesome.
So yeah, but they were great off the bench. They were really nice.
Yeah. So look, it's going to be a work in progress. I think it's for me, it's just for me. I just hope that the buy-in continues to be there. If the execution isn't there, if the results aren't there, like God willing, the Knicks should be able to make it through 82 games on their talent alone and be a good playoff seed. But there just needs to be continued buy-in from not only Cat but from everybody on the roster. Like, look, we're trying to we're not worried about looking pretty in October and November and December, even though it looked good last night. This is about June, so we'll see if that happens.
I mean, look, if Karl-Anthony Towns can't see the light at the end of the tunnel with playing this role, it's just really short-sighted because it's not like it all like, look, Domantas Sabonis, say what you want about him as a player, of all his flaws, he's a very good player who produces, and it has big nights within that ecosystem as a DHO guy. There's always a night for Sabonis because the matchup favors him. He gets shot opportunities. He gets his post opportunities. He has a mismatch. He's able to attack face-up drives. Those chances would be there for Karl-Anthony Towns within this ecosystem. It's not always going to be Brunson. It's not always going to be OG. It's not always going to be Bridges. It's not always going to be Deuce or Kolek having a big game off the bench, going off, getting hot. Sometimes it's going to be you as Cat in that system where you're going to be the guy dropping 35 points. Maybe you don't have your highest average ever, but to me, if I'm Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm looking at what Mike Brown did in Sacramento when it was Light the Beam Kings. I'm looking at what he did as an assistant with the Golden State Warriors, and I'm like, okay, this could be good for me. I can still produce, and we can win at a high level. And that's why I like that quote. It's just, I don't know, just very odd. It's just very strange to hear that coming out of him.
I don't want to make. By the way, full disclosure, there are some in Knicks Twitter land that paint me as a Cat hater. We did, very quick aside, we did, because we're always searching for summer content, right? So we did the top 25 Knicks of the last 25 seasons, and we voted on it, our whole Knicks Film School faculty, and I was lowest on Cat. I had Cat 13th of the last 25 years because I was like, look, it's one season. It was a really good individual season, but the playoffs kind of left me with a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I was just being upfront. So I don't want to sit here and what were you going to say?
Oh, me too. I heard it from certain people after his poor playoff performances. Look, it's just the reality of it. He stunk it up. It's okay
at times,
and he was great other times.
Yes, and he has these moments like the shots he hit at the end of game 4 against Detroit. His game 1 against Indiana. I know we talked after that game. That should have gone down as one of the great Knick playoff performances of all time, and it's not even going to get remembered. So I'm saying all this to say, I don't want to project too much from those comments. Maybe Cat was just having a bad day. The thing that I think is going to be interesting just from a purely basketball perspective is, and I know you know this stat, of the top 100 drivers in the league last year, nobody passed out of drives less than Karl-Anthony Towns. Nobody got fewer assists out of drives than Karl-Anthony Towns. And I understand that's in part because there aren't a lot of big men that drive as often as Karl-Anthony Towns. And but still, this is a guy capable of making nice passes. We see it. So if you're going to be in that kind of triple threat position that Sabonis was often in, and you could access your face-up dribble drive game, I would like to see him incorporate the passing part of that a little bit more. And I guess I still wonder, is it a willingness thing, or is it just when he gets it in his head, I'm going downhill, I'm shooting this basketball? Is that just that's what he's going to do, and he's not capable of doing something different? I think it's going to be a major thing that I'm going to watch out for this year.
I mean, I think that's spot on, Jonathan, because with Cat, he has the ability. I think it's either a vision thing or a willingness thing. One of the two or both. I mean, but ultimately he has the ability, and that's where it's so exciting with what he could be within this ecosystem. And I mean, ultimately, the Knicks win that game, missing some guys against Cleveland, who also had guys missing as well. Darius Garland out for the game, and Jarrett Allen, just total no-shows. 28 minutes, 0 points, 4 rebounds. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, just is something about MSG, is something about seeing those Knicks colors that just turns him into a 5-footer instead of a 7-footer. And I mean, if you're looking for reasons for optimism for Cleveland, it's we didn't have Garland, But B, I think Evan Mobley, 22 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 4 of 8 from 3, did a lot off the dribble as well. It seemed like Mobley had an expanded game. What stood out to you from the Cleveland side of things in that game, Jonathan, for both a pessimistic and optimistic perspective?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that stood out for me was like Evan Mobley. It was honestly a tale of two games. The first half, it was very clear to me, at least, that Donovan Mitchell was deferring to Evan Mobley. It's almost like he was making it a pointed effort to like, I'm going to get my guy in the MVP conversation from opening night, from Jump Street. And Donovan, I think he had 6 points at halftime or something crazy like that. Meanwhile, it was Mobley that was really like doing all the heavy lifting. And the thing that was so impressive to me, and I said it, there was a moment in the first quarter where like Mobley took a three, a three from the top of the arc, and it missed. And whoever was responsible like didn't give a hard closeout. And I said, like, man, if Mobley starts hitting those threes, the top of the arc threes with regularity, and defenders need to start closing out hard on those, it's over. Like at that point, he is he's a top 10 player last season by all NBA voting. So I don't know. Does that make him a top 5 player? Like when you combine the defense with that, I just don't know how you guard the guy. And sure enough, he ended up making some of those threes as the night went on. But like, I guess, and I wouldn't say this is like a negative, like the injuries obviously matter. You already have Mitchell there, who you want the ball in Mitchell's hands. Like he's one of the best scorers in the league. If Mobley is going to take on a bigger role, and then you have Garland back, like I don't want to say the Cavs have like there's only one ball, like, and that's a problem. But I'll be curious to see how that balance works with three guys who can legitimately like they could be your offensive focus at any given time. It worked great last year. They had the best offense in the history of the league. If Mobley takes another step up, does that make their lives easier, or is there maybe a bit of an adjustment period? It's something I guess I'm going to watch.
And I think that's right, spot on right there too. I think with the Cleveland, it was a conversation last year and could be an even bigger conversation this year because there is a bit of overlap with Garland and Mitchell and with Mobley and Allen. It would be sure nice if Jared Allen were that big tough guy who is, plays hard, like rips down 12 rebounds every single night. Not that he doesn't play hard, it's just sometimes he plays soft. And I think like having that tough center next to Mobley would make more sense since Mobley's more lean, perimeter oriented, and same with the two small guards in the backcourt. If Mobley's taking on more ball handling responsibilities, and if Mitchell is still the guy on the team, well, is Garland a 6 foot glorified spot up shooter? I think that's where Cleveland's roster. You could make a lot of arguments there that there's some moves to be made, but it's a little.
Can
early,
I throw one out at you?
Yeah, sure.
Like this would not work under the cap. Both teams, I'm sure, would hang up the phone. But I'm literally just off the top of my head. If you were Cleveland and you were able to swap out Allen and Garland for OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, and we're going to pretend in this fantasy world that Mitchell Robinson was a healthy basketball player and that they could depend on him, like would that not maybe make your team better? Like and again, because here's the other thing about Mitch.
Even though Allen might be better than Mitchell Robinson in a vacuum, Mitchell Robinson is better for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And OG, you need that wing length more than you need Garland's creation. Even if you have Garland ranked ahead of OG, which I wouldn't, some people do, that trade makes more sense for their roster.
And you only have to like a set like when you have Jared Allen, who made an all-star team, who's I don't know what he's making a lot of money. Like you kind of have to play Jared Allen 30 plus like 32 minutes a night. Like maybe they'd be better served with a center that like, okay, he's only going to play 24 minutes, but they're going to be tough, really good minutes. And then the rest of the time you have Mobley at the 5 in this unguardable alignment. And oh, by the way, if again, to get to the OG point, if you have a big wing alongside him to make the defense a little bit like, imagine trying to score on a defense with Evan Mobley and OG Anunoby, or not. It's not OG, but like someone, like that. I don't know, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's right on. I mean, I want like an Isaiah Stewart, like someone like that next to.
That's
I
a good
want
one.
a big. I want a big that I'm worried like that dude's gonna rip my limbs off Like that to me is the best fitting center next to Evan Mobley. Jarrett Allen, good player. I don't want to knock him too much, who had a really bad night, but he's had a lot of those bad nights and some big moments. And so that's where with Cleveland, I picked them to go to the finals in the East, maybe as an overreaction to my concerns about the Knicks after those cat comments. It's probably an overreaction. It probably was. But I think Cleveland does have their flaws regardless of that choice that were definitely put on a stage on opening night. Jonathan, I know obviously you do everything with Knicks Film School. You also have a new show launching. Please let people know where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'm if you turn on your laptop or check your Twitter, you're probably going to see me doing something these days. So yeah, Knicks Film School, where we all the Knicks coverage. We have our YouTube channel. We have the podcast. I have a newsletter on Substack. Again, Knicks Film School on Substack. You can follow me on Twitter, JC Macri NBA. And yeah, started a new general NBA show. It's called NBA Takedown. We actually just went live before I came on with you to talk about the whole gambling thing. And we like talk about the NBA in a serious way at times, and we also have some fun. So if you're looking for a little extra, all like general NBA coverage in your dossier, definitely check out NBA Takedown.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me. Have a good day, man.
Appreciate you, man. Can't wait till next time.